Just ahead, circumcision used to be a no-brainer for newborns, so why is it at the center of a controversy that crosses cultural, financial, and medical boundaries? We'll get both sides of the issue next. For generations, the conventional wisdom in the U.S. was that baby boys should be circumcised, and almost everyone used to do it. But that's changing. Circumcision rates have dropped 10% overall in the last 30 years, most drastically out west, where the rate of newborns getting the procedure at birth fell to 40.2% in 2010, by far the lowest in the country. Joining me now from San Francisco is Lloyd Schofield, an activist who opposes circumcision, and here in our studio, Dr. Nina Radcliff. Thank you both for being with us tonight. Lloyd, I want to start with you. You have been fighting this cause for a while. You tried to get it on a ballot in California. You want circumcision banned in the San Francisco area. Why is this such a big deal to you?
Well, actually, because it's a human rights violation. Baby boys die from routine infant circumcision. There's a whole list of bad effects. There really are no good effects. The only thing circumcision cures is a normal, healthy sex life, because it does interfere with sex. It interferes with cleanliness. And actually, we did get on the ballot. We collected 70% more of the signatures that we needed to get on the ballot in the city and county of San Francisco. And we had a very good chance of winning our initiative to restrict circumcision to what was medically and immediately necessary. However, a group of our opponents worked against us and had us pulled off the ballot on a technicality, so the citizens of San Francisco would not get to vote. We'll
address a series of the issues that you brought up, but it isn't that simple. I mean, we've got people who have religious concerns. It's something, you know, Muslims, Jews, it's something that's traditional and that they would want to do. I've been, when you talk about human rights and the suffering, and deaths are very rare, infections are rare, and I've seen a couple of kids circumcised in my life, and they cried for 30 seconds, and it was over. They cried more when they wanted food later on. Is it really something that's that significant?
It is significant. What's removed is about 15 square inches of the most erogenous tissue on a male. It does affect sexual performance. The foreskin is there for a reason. As an infant, the foreskin is fused to the head of the penis to create a sterile environment with a one-way flow of urine, which is sterile. Is very important. Most parents in the West, anyway, do have intact children. It is very important never, ever, ever to forcibly retract. It's there for a reason. You shouldn't use soap and water, just like you would not use soap and water in your mouth or your eyes or a female's vagina.
All right, let's bring in Dr. Radcliff. We want to talk about whether circumcision is the right thing to do, and let's look at some of the health benefits. There are studies that show that it reduces the risk of HIV, HPV, genital herpes. It reduces infections in boys. It also reduces infections in sex partners. And studies in Africa have shown, where there's a lot of HIV, that a lot of men are not circumcised there, and that they believe that it adds to the risk of AIDS transmission in Africa. You believe that circumcision is a good thing?
I believe absolutely it's a medical benefit. It's not a necessity. It can reduce the risk of HIV by up to 60%. And we know there's no cure for HIV. We don't have a vaccination for HIV. This is something that could help benefit. But I'm not saying that everyone needs it. It needs to be a family's right. It needs to be a family's decision to do this. So even though I medically believe it, I'm not going to sit there and try to get a political referendum to make everybody get circumcised.
And you don't think it should be banned? Obviously.
Absolutely not. You cannot put a political referendum on a personal choice.
But what about the American Academy of Pediatrics? They've been kind of wishy-washy about all of this. They sort of put out a statement a while back that said they didn't recommend it, that it was kind of up to you. But then the most recent statement came out last year and said that the benefits far outweighed the risks, that it should be covered by insurance, and that while they weren't going to push people to do it, that they felt that people should.
Right. And I think the point is education. You want people to understand the benefits. There is a possible reduction in the risk of urinary tract infections, even penis cancer. That penis cancer has a 25% mortality. If you can reduce it, these are benefits, and people need to understand the risks and the benefits and have this intelligent discussion with their physician.
Lloyd, don't the medical benefits outweigh the risks?
Absolutely not. Circumcision has been a cure in search of a disease since the late 1800s, when the Sanjay Guptas of the time said, oh yes, we know circumcision cures masturbation, and masturbation causes a whole host of problems that we want to take care of.
But what do you say to all these studies that show reduced infection?
It's very important to note that not one medical association in the world recommends routine infant circumcision. Most of them recommend strongly against it, particularly the Royal Dutch Medical Association recommends against it. It depends you were recently, you referenced the AAP. It really depends on who's sitting on the committee. In 1996, the committee who was in charge of this circumcision task force stated this is cosmetic procedure. We shouldn't promote it. It's not necessary. We have a very different committee in the AAP who has drawn international criticism from other medical associations.
Doctor, what do you say to that? I mean, he has a point. The American Academy of Pediatrics has waffled on this.
Right. They have waffled on it because they don't want to say you can get it or you shouldn't get it. They're saying there are benefits. I mean, if there are
these benefits, why shouldn't they sort of give a clear...
It should still be a personal right. We still have vaccinations. People argue about vaccinations. The seasonal flu vaccine, people argue about it, but 40 million people get it every year. You can't force it. You can't mandate it. It's recommended or it's suggested. There are benefits.
So why do Europeans, Lloyd mentioned the Dutch doctors, Europeans, Asians, they just don't go for it. So the rates in Europe are minimal, right. Only about 10% average across Europe.
Well, circumcision started as a religious belief. Then we found medical reasons for it. It's also a cultural thing. It may not be culturally a necessity in these areas, and that could explain some of that.
Lloyd, I know you tried in San Francisco to ban it. They've tried in Santa Monica. What's going on out west? It's a big drop. Compare a baby born in Chicago or St. Louis, they're about 77% more likely to be circumcised. Why do you think out west it's happening in a different way than it is in the rest of the country?
Well, it really is happening all over the country. We see parents educating themselves, parents rejecting the fallacious argument of the son looking like the father, and people are looking into really what are the benefits. Like I said, no international medical organization recommends it. If you look at Stanford Medical School's webpage, and they have a 7-page list of bad side effects from circumcision. Really, would you put your child under the duress, pain, and mutilation of undergoing a circumcision with the possibility of them dying, having infections? These are routine complications. I was just reading today, there are about 300 pediatric urologists in the United States. Most of them take all of their time repairing mild to major circumcisions gone wrong. Degloving, which is the removal of all of the skin on the penis, requires skin graft. This is not really even considered as a bad effect by many people. The foreskin is there for a reason. There's no dotted line on a penis for a doctor to cut. If someone is 18 years old and wants to have a circumcision for whatever reason, and they know the risks and the benefits, they're welcome to do it.
Much tougher at that age, but let's...
Not really. It's actually much tougher on a baby because you cannot give general anesthesia to a baby. Babies undergoing circumcision, I'm glad the one that you witnessed seemed mild, but babies have vomited, burst lungs, have gone into heart palpitations.
But I've got to move on. I want to bring up some social media response to our reaction to this issue, and I'd like to bring in Hermela for that. Hermela.
Thanks, Antonio. Dr. Radcliff, in addition to what we've been discussing on this topic, there are two things a lot of people on social media are talking about, and it's the aesthetics of being circumcised or uncircumcised and the impact that it has on sex life. So vlogger Laci Green from San Francisco uploaded this YouTube video in response to negative comments about foreskin. It was uploaded 9 days ago. There are already 175,000 views, and it's appropriately titled, "I Love Foreskin." Let's take a look.
The foreskin still serves as like a little sheath. It keeps all the bad stuff out, and it also keeps all the good stuff in. The foreskin has mucous membranes which release and distribute and help to store natural lubrication, also protecting those erotic nerve endings so that they aren't overexposed and becoming desensitized by being all over the place all the time. We've grown accustomed to seeing penises in a cosmetically altered light. I just don't believe that there's anything inherently ugly about the natural penis.
So from that, Dr. Radcliff, how do you think aesthetics impact the way people think about circumcision, and what impact can it have on one's sex life?
Well, I think it's like some people like blondes, some people like brunettes. It's one of those things where it's a personal choice. I don't think it makes any difference in that matter.
All right. Nina Radcliff and Lloyd Schofield, we thank you both for joining us tonight and having this very interesting discussion. I'm sure it will continue to be debated. Up next.